Good afternoon, Razorback fans. We want to welcome you to a special episode of Hog Talk Podcast presented to you by Believe Network and Bet Online. We go to the Meadows Lumber Hotline, bring in Jason Carroll from OSU Maxx, formerly of Pick Trail Nation and Hogs Plus. I know we had pre-planned to record this at a different time, but things come up, and we're going to you at 8 o'clock in the morning. We're going to post this later on, but thank you so much for coming on.
Man, it's always a pleasure to see you, Porter.
Yes, sir.
It's been a pleasure.
It's been a while, and talk about that. You know, your journey from Fayetteville, kind of got out of it a minute, and then you go to Stillwater. So how has that journey been? I know we talked last night about you getting to talk with Barry Sanders and those sorts of things. What's it been like in Stillwater?
It's been great, man. You know, you come to a new place, you don't have a lot of connections, and you build those connections, and you never know where it's going to go. And so it has taken me to Detroit. It's you know, the programs and people are great here, and so it's been a fun little 3 years now. So,
and how would you compare? You know, you come from a market like Fayetteville, and then you go to a market like Stillwater. I mean, I'm sure I don't know the size of the town but was it harder to kind of get adjusted to that, or is it similar to Fayetteville in an aspect?
Similar in the people, not similar in the size of the city
Yeah.
and the surrounding area. But you know, everything's about relationships, right? And so depends on how you build those, and you go from there. So that was step one for me, and that's kind of been the journey I've been on here since day one back in 2021.
Now, if it serves me correct, did they have this game on the schedule before you went to Stillwater?
I knew about this game. Yeah, so I've been preparing for this game, and the last couple weeks has been interesting getting to this week. But you know, it is what it is. We crossed paths in 22 in baseball over here in the regional, and so you know, you just have fun with it, and you know, it's I'll get to see a lot of people that I haven't seen in a while this week here in Stillwater. So,
yeah, and prepping for that, you know, this is a very interesting game. I think somebody said Arkansas and Oklahoma hasn't played each other in a regular season very long time. I don't know.
1980, and guess what? I wasn't born in 1980.
I wasn't either.
So,
and then Oklahoma State. Before we get in the conversation, why do you think that is, especially with the Oklahoma State side of it? Two teams that are similar, you know, I mean, they're in proximity of each other.
I don't know why it stopped, really. I know part of the reason was that Oklahoma State new regime came in and did not feel like having to go to Little Rock every time they played, because that was 90% of the time they played in Little Rock, and did not want to do that. And that was something set up with Henry Abba and Frank Broyles, and they just didn't want to do it anymore. And now you're 2.5. I mean, literally from campus to campus, it's 3 hours. So why not play? You know, we're playing this year in 27, and then playing in 32, 33, or 33, 34, whatever it is. And it should be played more often. You know, I had one guy tell me this should be the game after Thanksgiving you play every year, and just have these two teams play. Now the Big 12 does it different because, you know, it's mostly conference games with only 3 non-cons. So I don't know if that would ever happen. But yeah, I mean, you know, these two teams are the closest teams to each other in Power 4 football. So why not play?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it too is if they did try to make this, I think the Missouri kind of ruined, like in the eyes of the fans, if you bring this into an every year deal, they're going to feel like here's another forced rivalry because Arkansas is desperately looking for that rival, and they did it with Missouri. So do you think that would be an issue if they did decide to try to play this every year?
I don't think so. I don't think it'll ever happen. But
yeah.
I mean, who knows where we're going to be in college football in 5 years?
Exactly.
I mean, there may be 48 teams playing in a power league, and there may be 60. Who knows? So I don't know what that's going to look like in the future, but they should play. They should play in every sport. And there's different things with different teams, coaching staffs, why they don't play. But, you know, I'm looking forward to fall baseball here during both of our bye weeks in October, Friday and Saturday. And then softball's playing in Tulsa against Oklahoma State. Or Arkansas and Oklahoma State are playing in Tulsa, you know, in a softball exhibition this fall. So at least they're getting some games in, whether they count or not.
Yeah, I mean, it's always good. And look, whether they count on the record book or not, it's always good to bring those two programs together because they are, if you're wanting to get good quality games, I know they were talking about one time instead of doing a spring game, maybe have a spring game against other team. And you've got a quality opponent right there in your backyard that you can do this with. You're not having to bring in some smaller school or play Tech or whoever. You can bring in Oklahoma State and Oklahoma State bring in Arkansas and have some quality exhibition games. But moving to this game, I really want to talk about. I know it was UAPB. I know 70 points, but what was a big takeaway from the Arkansas standpoint of was you surprised that it ended up being 70-0? And what were things that stuck out to you about this team that you've seen on Thursday?
Well, I don't think you're surprised that they won the way they did. Arkansas is better. To what level is Arkansas better? Everybody's going to find out on Saturday here in Stillwater. You know what Bobby Petrino brings with his offense, and you saw that on display on three levels: first string, second string, third string in that game against UAPB. I don't think you're going to see. You might see second string. I don't know, but I think it's going to be a different kind of game this week, and we'll see how both teams react to that. Now, how good is Arkansas? Everybody's going to find out Saturday. How much better are they than last year? Who knows? But they at least showed progress there with the new pieces. I mean, you've got to go back and look. I mean, they got a lot of new pieces. Go back
Yeah.
and look at their starting lineup. A lot of new pieces. So, how do those new pieces go from week 1 to week 2?
And Oklahoma State. Look, what is the vibe from the Oklahoma State side, knowing that look, this is a test for Arkansas. Like there's been a lot of talk about this is the game, this is the game, this is the game. Is Oklahoma State used to that as this is a measuring mark of your season is playing against Oklahoma State? And what does that do to the psyche of the team, knowing that they're looking at this game to see where we are? How does OSU approach that?
Well, I think it's the same thing for them. I mean, you get an early test from a Power 4 school in the SEC that you haven't played, you don't know a lot about. So you get an early test to see where you are, because next week you go to Tulsa, and then you start conference play with Utah coming in here, and then going to Kansas State, and then coming home and facing West Virginia. So that first 6 weeks is a tough stretch. And so this is the second test in that stretch. And you step up from the FCS power to an Arkansas team that everybody's going to find out about. So we'll see how it goes on Saturday. But for Oklahoma State, I think it's another test, and it's a team that hopes to be in the playoff later this year. So you got to pass the second test to be able to do that.
And of course, I would assume everybody on the Oklahoma State side was very pleased on how this was not a cupcake team. This was not just a regular FCS team that they played in South Dakota State, 15-0 last year, always a high-powered offense. So what did you see that, when you look at Arkansas and how Oklahoma State needs to attack that, what were some bright spots you've seen from the Oklahoma State side that, you're confident in how they're going to attack this Arkansas offense?
Well, I mean, I don't know enough about Arkansas yet to know what you're going to really attack and how they're going to attack them. I do know that I'm pretty confident in what Oklahoma State can do offensively, with two deep at wide receiver, and the first three are really dang good. You got the Doak Walker winner. You got an offensive line that's been together for 6 years, and they brought in a couple pieces. And a quarterback in Alan Bowman, who the other day didn't make the mistakes he made last year. So has he grown up enough in this offense to be really good? Then on the other side of the ball, you got a pretty good defensive line with some really good pieces and some guys that are now getting some playing time, and they showed out a little bit on Saturday. You got arguably one of the top 5 linebackers in the country, Nick Martin. One of the best edge rushers, drop back guys in Colin Oliver in the country, and some good pieces on the back end. So Oklahoma State, I mean, won 10 games last year. They expect to do that and more this year and get into the playoffs. So we'll see how they pass this test on Saturday, or how they take the test. But I think they feel pretty confident in the fact that they're playing at home and they don't lose many games at home.
And just the broader spectrum of this, OU, Texas both leave the Big 12. They come to the SEC. Now there is going to be that fight for who's going to be the new king in the Big 12. Oklahoma State is one of those programs that could really take advantage of this and show that they are the new sheriff in town. So how important is it to take this game, win this game against an SEC school to build their confidence going into this new conference slate?
Well, I think it's important for one factor and one factor only. This league is projected to only get one team in the playoff by most people. So you have to win games like this against other conference teams in order to at least build a resume. Now, Arkansas is not going to be a top tier SEC team, I don't think, but they might be. Who knows? And so you still need to win out of conference games against Power 4 teams. So that's what Oklahoma State needs to do. As far as the conference, it comes down to week one, really. I mean, now there's 8 other games past that. But week one of conference play, you've got two 20-year head coaches that were hired within a week of each other at Utah and Oklahoma State. And Utah's the prohibitive favorite to win this league based off what they did in the Pac-12. So, that's where it starts for Oklahoma State on the big picture. Now, this week is important because you need to beat an SEC team, and then you get to week 4 of the season where you got Utah and you need to win that game at home to kind of put your foot in the ground and say, hey, this is still our conference and this is still our league, and we're here to win this thing. So, I mean, they've been in the Big 12 title game 2 of the last 3 years, came within an inch of winning it in 21, and Texas was just dominant on defense last year, and there was nothing they could do. So,
and from the Oklahoma State fan side of this thing, preseason, this was Oklahoma State was favored in this game against Arkansas, but now you see, just because Arkansas beat UAPB, like the tide has shifted because of a 70-0 win. What do you think the fans think of, pump the brakes? It was UAPB. Look what we have coming back in Gordon, our offensive line. This is not just going to be a game where, especially, like I said, from the fan standpoint, that Arkansas should be able to think they're going to come in confidently into Stillwater and win this game.
Well, I think Arkansas is going to come in confident. I think Oklahoma State's going to come in confident. Who wins at the line of scrimmage is going to be a key. I don't know about the fans, and really, I mean, I don't think Oklahoma State fans are looking at that 70-0 score saying Arkansas scares them.
Yeah.
Now, if you really look at the rosters, they might, based off of some of the things that Arkansas has. But for Oklahoma State fans, it's about our team, and we feel really good about what we have. Arkansas fans, on the other side of that, are super excited based off scoring 10 times in a row. So, it'll be interesting. I just think that after week 1, you can't change your expectations. I mean, you can get excited because you see something you didn't expect, but I don't know if you change them that quickly and just because what happens if you come in and lose this game?
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
Then you go the other way, right? So it's just, week 1 is overreaction week a little bit. Week 2 is where the big growth is. So do you see how you grow? And I don't know. It's hard because Oklahoma State did what they were supposed to do last week. Coach Gundy talked about after the game and a little bit on Monday, they didn't run the ball the way they wanted. So Arkansas is going to try to line up and stop the run. What does Oklahoma State do? Again, they've got talent across the board on offense, and so it's going to be hard to slow one thing down. I don't know if they can slow both things down. Same thing with Arkansas. What does Arkansas look like offensively? What does Bobby Petrino bring? Bobby has had success in this building. Missouri State almost won here in 21, I think. So, it's going to be interesting to see the cat and mouse game that goes on. So,
yeah, and it looks like you got 2 programs. I mean, that, like Arkansas, nobody's wanting, and from the inside of the camp, they don't want this team judged off that 4-8 year. They want things judged off this year. And, the same could be said about Oklahoma State. Got everything returning back, got Gordon back. So this is really going to be a battle of, one, who wants it more, and this is going to be a battle of two teams really trying to climb the ladder of their respective conferences and in the college football landscape. Because like you said, Oklahoma State has a chance to get that spot in the college football playoff. And knowing that now we're expanding to 12 teams, does that put a little, I wouldn't say fully relaxed, but what does that do with a program like Oklahoma State that you go from 4 to now you're like, oh, we have a legitimate shot at 12 of making the college football playoff. Now, how do does that change any kind of mindset this season?
I think it makes it more critical to go out and win. Again, it comes back to this league. The Big 12 does not get some of the respect it should nationally. And so when people go and look and say there's only going to be the Big 12 champion in this playoff, well, if that's the case, and the conference had an opportunity last week for West Virginia to go beat Penn State, and they didn't do that. Like stuff like that's what this league has to have in order to put it on a table where they can get 2, maybe 3 teams in. Because right now it's 1. Well, if it's 1, then it's whoever wins the Big 12 title game. So you got to finish 1 or 2 in the league and go win that game and then get into the playoff. So for them, it's every week they got to go out and try to win because they're playing for that playoff spot. Unlike, Arkansas could go 10-2 this year and get in the playoff possibly.
Yeah.
Because the SEC and the Big Ten are going to get projected 4 teams in. Well, can you be one of the best 4 teams in that league every year to get into the playoff compared to the Big 12, where you might have to just be the one that wins the league, and occasionally you might get a second team in, and that's it. So it's a little bit tougher over here to go take it lightly week 2, week 3, and go out, because you need to win as many games as possible and get to the Big 12 title game, and then from there, hopefully win that and get into the playoff.
Yeah, and I know the CFP has not been too kind to the Big 12, and we know about TCU and how they done the numbers and the rankings and flip flop between them and Baylor. I can't remember what year that was, where they one team got left out of the college football playoff. 22
when TCU made it.
Yeah. And so it's got to be frustrating on a sense that they're expanding it, but yet still making it just as hard for a conference to make it. It's supposed to be kind of, hey, let's even kill. But yeah, you said it right there. And I know that's got to still put a chip on the shoulder, and that could be dangerous for some of these teams like Arkansas, where there's a lot more for Oklahoma State to gain from this win than Arkansas on a national standpoint. But if we're looking at, what about Oklahoma State give offense, defense, what's 2 big keys that, if Arkansas can do this, they have a chance to win this game?
Defensively, it's pressure.
Yeah.
But I think Oklahoma State can counteract some of that pressure. So I don't really know. On offense, do they? If Arkansas scores touchdowns and not field goals, they've got a chance. Because Oklahoma State's going to score, and so do you get into a shootout? If you get into a shootout, you can't have field goals. You guys, touchdowns. And I'm not sure how confident Arkansas is in their field goal kicker right now. So, you put Arkansas in a situation like that on offense, which Oklahoma State's probably going to try to do, then, what happens? So,
yeah. Well, I know you've got to get on the road. You've got prior engagements and stuff, but man, it's always good to chop it up with you. Really good to talk with you again. Like I told you last night, very proud of where you're at with this OSU Maxx thing and leading the charge. I follow your content, and y'all are doing big things over there. So I really appreciate you coming on and talking with us about the game.
Hey, think about where you are right now too, big dog.
Yeah. Yeah.
Think about, we talked about it back in the day when you're, getting hard and heavy into covering the women's stuff. Look at where you are right now. So you should be proud of yourself too, man. So,
yeah. We just eclipsed 50,000. So yeah, it's been a long journey. I think 19's when I started. So it's, you come a long ways, and you look at where the women's programs are. So it's been a lot of fun seeing every one of these women's programs when nobody was in the stands or in the press box, that you were, you're actually getting to see what's happening with all these teams. So it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, and one thing, I think Oklahoma or Arkansas fans coming to Stillwater, the ones that are coming, will enjoy themselves on Saturday, win or lose. People are great; they'll enjoy the stadium. Like I've told people, there's not really a bad seat in the house because it's like if you're not in the suite level, it's like the lower level at Razorback Stadium. There's no
Mhm.
upper deck at Razorback Stadium, so you're going to enjoy yourself. And you know, we'll see what happens on Saturday. I wish it was. I wish it was. This was a night game because
Oh man,
you
that'd
get
be
the
crazy.
full experience of the pitch dark in the sky, the paddles banging
Yep.
against the pads. I mean, it's there's night games. You know, I've been everywhere in the SEC, and those are big stadiums. But night game in Boone Pickens Stadium when it's a really good
Rocking.
game, yeah, it's a good spot. So
I think Arkansas is glad it's 11 a.m. kickoff. Always being the road team, you want that early kickoff. It doesn't.
yeah, I just there is truth to that, and um, they got to drive an hour on Saturday. Now it might be quicker than an hour with the police escort, but you're trying to get here at 9, so you're leaving at 7:45, 8 o'clock. So it means you're getting up at 5 or 6. So how are you on Saturday? We'll see.
Yeah.
But yeah, it should be fun. Should be a fun Saturday.
Well, that will do it for this special episode of the Hog Talk Podcast. Again, this is pre-recorded. We will post this later on this morning on all of our platforms. We want to appreciate Jason for jumping on and all of our sponsors. We'll catch you tonight at 6:30 when we go live and bring on Baptist Health to talk about men's health and our partnership with them. And Adam will join me. We'll catch you then.